The kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 33, Part 1. J.M.J. Fiat. In voluntate Dei. Deo gratias. November 19th, 1933. How one who disposes himself to do the divine will forms the passport, the way, the train. How Jesus wants to replicate himself in the creature. The signer and the celestial engine. My celestial sovereign, Jesus, and my great Queen of Heaven, come to my aid. Place this little ignorant one in between your most holy hearts. And while I write, my dear Jesus acts as my prompter, and my celestial mamma, as with a daughter of hers, guides my hand on the paper, so that, as I write, I will be between Jesus and my mamma, that I may write not a word more than what they tell me and want me to. With this confidence in my heart, I begin to write the 33rd volume. Perhaps it will be the last one, but I don't know, though I have all the hope that all of heaven would have compassion on the poor exiled one, and would soon let her repatriate with them. But after all, Fiat, Fiat. So I continued to think about the divine will, life and center of my poor existence. And my sweet Jesus, repeating his fleeting little visit, told me, "My good daughter, you must know that as the soul disposes herself to do my divine will, she forms the passport in order to enter the interminable boundaries of the kingdom of the Fiat. But do you know who lends you what is needed in order to form it, and who offers to sign it and give it the value of passage into my kingdom? Daughter, the act of disposing oneself to do my will is so great that my very life, my own merits, form the paper, the characters. And your Jesus acts as the signer to make this creature known and give her free access. It can be said that the whole of heaven runs to the aid of one who wants to do my will. And I feel so much love that I take my place in this fortunate creature, and I feel loved by her from my own will. Now, seeing myself loved by her from my own will, my love becomes jealous and does not want to lose even one breath, one heartbeat of love of this creature. You yourself imagine my care, the precautions I take, the helps I give, the loving stratagems I use toward her. In a word, I want to replicate myself within her, and in order to replicate myself, I expose myself so as to form another Jesus in the creature. Therefore, I apply all my divine art to obtain the intent. I hold nothing back. I do everything. I give everything. Wherever my will reigns, I can deny nothing, because I would deny it to myself. Now, disposing oneself to do my will forms the passport. Beginning the act forms the way that she must cover within it, a way of heaven, holy, divine. Therefore, to one who enters into it, I whisper to the ear of her heart, forget the earth. It is no longer yours now. From now on, you shall see nothing but heaven. My kingdom has no boundaries. Therefore your journey shall be long. Hence, you'd better hasten your steps, to form for yourself many paths, and in this way take much from the goods which are there in my kingdom. So to begin the act forms the way, to fulfill it forms the train, and when I see the train formed, I act as the engine to set it at fast pace. And oh, how beautiful, delightful it is to stroll along these ways, which the creature has formed for herself in my will. These acts done in my will enclose centuries of merits and of incalculable goods, because there is the divine engine that runs, which has such velocity as to enclose centuries within minutes, and it renders the creature so rich, beautiful, and holy as to make us boast before the whole celestial court, pointing at her as the greatest prodigy of its creative art. Furthermore, as the creature keeps forming her act in my divine will, so are the veins of the soul emptied of what is human, and a divine blood, I could say, flows within them, which makes the divine virtues, in their substance, to be felt in the creature, which have the virtue of flowing, almost like blood, in the very life that animates her Creator, which renders them inseparable from each other, so much so that one who wants to find God can find him in his place of honor in the creature, and one who wants to find the creature will find her in the divine center. Fiat. November 26, 1933. The works of God prepare a banquet for the creature, and by living in his divine volition, she acts as queen in the seas of the Supreme Being. How one who does her own will sets herself apart from everyone and remains alone, the derelict and lost one of creation. I was doing my round in the works of the divine Fiat, and since I am too little, I feel the need to be carried in its arms. Otherwise, either I get lost within its immensity and the multiplicity of its works, or I am unable to move forward. But since it wants to make known to me its works, in which its speaking and operating love is found, and where it tells me how much and in what manner it has loved me, so it carries me in its arms, and it leads me along the interminable ways of its holy will. But this is not enough. For each of its works, it encloses in me the love of each work, as much as I can contain. It wants to hear in me the sound of the love which each work encloses. I too am a work of its own, an act of its will, and since it did everything for love of me, it wants me to enclose within myself all the sounds and keys of love which its works contain. So, while I was going around in its works, beloved Jesus, surprising me, told me, "My blessed daughter, You cannot comprehend how pleased I am to see you go around in the works created by us. They are pregnant with love, and as you go around in their midst, they pour out love and give you the love with which they are filled. And this is one of the reasons why I want you to go around in our works. They prepare the banquet of our love for the creatures, and feel honored to have a little sister of theirs in their midst, who nourishes herself with it, and forms within herself as many sounds of love for their Creator, for as many works as were created. But this is not all. My divine will is not content with letting her go around in our works, but after it made her go around, making known to her many things about creation, and filling her with love up to the brim, it leads her in its arms unto the bosom of the Supreme Being, who, as with a tiny little pebble, casts her into the interminable seas of his attributes. And the little daughter of our will, what does she do? Just as a little pebble cast into the sea makes all the waters of the sea ripple, so does she move the whole of the sea of our divine being. And while she swims in it, she drowns with love, with light, with sanctity, with wisdom, with goodness, and so forth. And oh, how beautiful it is to see her, to hear her say, as she feels drowned, "All of your love is mine, and I place it in act of praying you to make the kingdom of your will come upon earth. Your sanctity is mine, your light, your goodness, your mercy is mine. It is not my littleness that is praying you, no, but it is your seas of power, of goodness, that pray you, that press you, that assail you, and want your will reigning on earth." So the littleness of the creature appears as acting as queen in our Supreme Being, reuniting together our immensity and power, and making us ask from our own selves what she wants and we ourselves want. She comprehends well that there is no other good but our will alone, and in order to obtain the intent, she makes the very infinity of our divine qualities ask us for it. And there appears the tiny little one, little and powerful, enriched with the prerogatives of our divine qualities, as if they were her own, giving her such charm of beauty as to enrapture us, debilitate us, so as to make us do what she wants, and we ourselves want. She becomes our echo, and is unable to tell us or ask of us anything other than for our will to invade everything and form one single will with all creatures. So, once the creature has understood what divine will means and feels its life flowing within herself, she no longer feels a need for anything, because by possessing our will, she possesses all possible and imaginable goods. All that is left to her is the delirium, the yearnings, the longings, for she wants my will to embrace all and constitute itself life of everything. And this because she sees that my will wants it so, and so wants her littleness. Then I continued to think about the divine will, and the great evil that doing the human will brings. And my beloved Jesus, sighing, added, "My daughter, one who does her own will sets herself apart from everyone and acts on her own. There is no one to help her, or to give her the strength, nor anyone to give her the light to be able to make the best out of what she does. So all leave her at the mercy of herself, isolated, without support and without defense. She can be called the derelict, the lost one in creation. Just penalty for one who wants to do her own will, to feel all the weight of the loneliness into which she herself has cast herself, and the lack of help from anyone. And oh, the sorrow I feel in seeing so many creatures apart even from me. And I, to let them touch with their own hand what it means to act without my will, remain as though far away, letting them feel all the weight of the human will, which never gives them rest, and becomes their cruelest tyrant. The complete opposite for one who does my will. All are with her, heaven, saints, angels, because, out of honor and respect for my divine volition, all have the duty to help that creature and sustain her in those acts where my will enters. My will itself places her in communication with everyone, and commands everyone to help her, defend her, and form for her the cortege of their company. Grace already smiles at her. The light shines in her soul and administers to her the best, the highest beauty into her act. I myself remain committed in one who does my will, and I make my acts flow within hers, to have the honor, the love, the glory of my acts in the act of the creature who has operated in my will. Here is why she feels the connection with all, the strength, the support, the company, the defense of all. So one who does my will and lives in it can be called the regained one of creation, the daughter, the sister, the friend of all. My will acts like the sun, which pours light from the height of its sphere, and expanding, encloses everything within its light. It gives itself to all, it denies itself to no one, and like a faithful sister, it embraces with all things and gives its beneficial effect to each created thing as the pledge of its love, constituting itself life of the effects it gives. In some, it forms the life of sweetness. In other created things, the life of fragrance. In others, the life of colors, and so forth. In the same way, my will from the height of its throne pours down its light, and where it finds the creature who wants to receive it, to let herself be dominated, it surrounds her, it embraces her, it warms her, it molds her, to make her mature, and so enclose its admirable life as if it were life of the creature. And with this life, Everything and every one are with her, as everything belongs to my adorable will. Fiat. December 10th, 1933. The first word that Adam pronounced. What the first lesson was that God gave him. The divine will operating in man. I am always the tiny little ignorant one of the Supreme Being, and when the divine will plunges me into its seas, I see that I just barely know the vowels, if at all, of its adorable majesty. My littleness is such that I can just barely swallow a few drops of the much that the Creator possesses. Then, while going around in the works of the divine Fiat, I paused at Eden, in which I made present to myself the creation of man. And I thought to myself, what could be the first word that Adam spoke when he was created by God? And my highest good Jesus, visiting me with his short little visit, all goodness, as if he himself wanted to tell me, said to me, "My daughter, I too feel the need to tell you what the first word was, pronounced by the lips of the first creature created by us. You must know that as soon as Adam felt life, motion, and reason within himself, he saw his God before him, and comprehended that he had formed him. He felt within himself, in his whole being, still fresh, the impressions, the touch of his creative hands, and grateful, in a surge of love, he pronounced his first word. I love you, my God, my Father, the author of this, my life. But it was not only the word, but the breath, the heartbeat, the drops of his blood that flowed inside his veins, the motion, the whole of his being united together, repeated as though in chorus, I love you, I love you, I love you. So the first lesson that he learned from his Creator, the first word that he learned to speak, the first thought that had life within his mind, the first heartbeat that was formed in his heart, was, I love you, I love you. He felt himself loved, and he loved. I can say that he never stopped his I love you. It was so long that only when he had the disgrace to fall into sin, then was it interrupted. So our divinity felt wounded in hearing, I love you, I love you, on the lips of man. It was the very same word that we had created in the organ of his voice, that was saying to us, I love you. It was our own love, created by us in the creature, that was saying to us, I love you. How not to remain wounded? How not to requite him with a yet greater, stronger love, worthy of our magnificence? As we heard, I love you, being spoken to us, so did we repeat to him, I love you. But in our I love you, we made the operating life of our divine will flow in his whole being. So in man, as though inside a temple of ours, we enclosed our will, so that, enclosed within the human circle, while remaining in us, it might operate great things, and might be the thought, the word, the heartbeat, the step, and the work of man. Our I love you could not give a holier, a more beautiful, a more powerful thing, which alone could form the life of the Creator in the creature, than our will operating in him. And oh, how pleasing it was for us to see that our will held its place of actor, and the human will, dazzled by its light, would enjoy its paradise, and giving it full freedom, it would let it do whatever it wanted, giving it primacy in everything, and the place of honor that befitted a will so holy. See then how the beginning of the life of Adam was an act of his whole being, full of love toward God. What a sublime lesson! How the beginning of love should run in the whole operating of the creature. The first lesson that he received from our Supreme Being, as the requital of his I love you, was that, while loving him tenderly, replying to him I love you, he gave him the first lesson in our divine will, and while instructing him, he communicated to him the life of it, and the infused knowledge of what our divine Fiat meant. And each time he said to us, I love you, our love prepared for him other lessons, more beautiful, about our will. He remained enraptured, and we delighted in conversing with him, and made rivers of love, and of perennial joys, flow upon him. So the human life was enclosed by us, within love and our will. Therefore, my daughter, there is no greater sorrow for us than to see our love as though broken in the creature, and our will hampered, suffocated, without its operating life, and as though subjected to the human will. So, be attentive, and in all things let love and my divine will be the beginning. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 33, Part 1. Fiat.